The West Sea of Korea at 2:17 a.m. was dark in both directions. To the south, the lights of Incheon were faintly visible at the horizon, the glow of a city that did not sleep, refracted upward by the humidity over the Yellow Sea, a warm smear at the edge of the world. To the north, across the northern limit line that ran invisibly east to west through the shallow brown water, the North Korean coastline was absent. No city glow, no navigation markers, no infrastructure lighting. The northern horizon at 2:17 a.m. in the West Sea was the same as the sky at 2:17 a.m. in the West Sea, and the line between them was something the brain supplied rather than the eye confirmed. The U.S. destroyer was on Station 8, nautical miles south of the NLL, in coordination with a Republic of Korea Navy corvette operating 4 nautical miles to the east. The watch had been quiet for 3 hours and 41 minutes. At 2:17 a.m., the quiet ended in a specific way. Not a sonar contact. Not a radar return from a large vessel altering course. A radar return from something so small and so fast that the first sweep was logged as a probable spurious return, the kind of artifact that appeared in the West Sea in spring from sea state clutter and atmospheric ducting. On the second sweep, the contact was in a different position, consistent with something moving at approximately 40 knots from the northwest. On the third sweep, the position confirmed both the direction and the speed, not a spurious return. Bridge CIC. New surface contact, bearing 348, range 3.2 nautical miles. Contact is small return, consistent with a small fast attack boat or rigid inflatable. Speed estimate 40 to 45 knots. No AIS signal. No navigation lights visible. Contact bearing is consistent with approach from the direction of the NLL. Current track heading 175, direct approach to our position. No AIS. No navigation lights. 40 to 45 knots. From the direction of the NLL, heading directly at the destroyer at 2:17 a.m. in the West Sea of Korea. The officer of the deck reached for the captain's sea cabin without being told. At 2:19 a.m., the captain stepped onto the bridge. He did not pause at the hatchway. He walked directly to the radar display and read the contact in 2 seconds. Speed, bearing, track, range. He read all of it in 2 seconds because 2 seconds was approximately the time available to him before the information needed to be in action rather than in assessment. He had done the assessment before he was fully awake. In the 11 seconds between the call from the officer of the deck and the moment he stepped onto the bridge, he had been running the arithmetic. Small, fast, no lights from the north, direct approach. The West Sea at 2:19 a.m. The arithmetic was not complicated. He had done it in 11 seconds and he had arrived with the decision already made. He needed the radar display to confirm the numbers, not to generate the decision. He walked to the radar display and read the contact in 2 seconds. Speed, bearing, track, range. He noted the lack of AIS. He noted the lack of visible navigation lights. He noted that the contact was at 3.1 nautical miles and closing at 40 to 45 knots, 4 minutes and 40 seconds. I have the con. He turned to the CIC intercom. Get me the FLIR on that contact. The FLIR operator responded within 20 seconds. Engine signature visible, consistent with high output propulsion running at full power. Contact is approximately 8 to 12 meters in length based on the thermal footprint. Low profile, minimal freeboard visible in the thermal image. 8 to 12 meters. Low profile. High output propulsion. No lights. No AIS. From the north. CPA to contact alpha, 2.8 nautical miles. Time, 4 minutes, 10 seconds. The West Sea at night had one category of vessel that matched all of those characteristics simultaneously. The KPN, the Korean People's Navy, operated small, fast, low-profile craft specifically designed for cross-NLL operations under darkness. They were built to be invisible on radar until they were close, invisible to the eye until they were very close, and fast enough to cover the NLL crossing in a window that minimized exposure. The profile was the identification. At 2:19:40 a.m., a second contact appeared. Bearing 011. Range 4.1 nautical miles. Same profile. Small return, no AIS, no lights, Speed estimate 38 to 43 knots. Track heading 192, not a direct approach, but a track that would bring it to the destroyer's port quarter while Contact Alpha approached from the north. The pincer. 2 contacts. Alpha approaching from the north on a direct intercept. Bravo from the north-northeast on a track to the port quarter. If both maintained speed and heading, they would arrive at approximately the same time from different bearings. Alpha at the bow, Bravo off the port quarter simultaneously. Bridge CIC. Second contact bearing 011, range 4.1 nautical miles. Same profile as Alpha. Small return, no AIS, no lights, speed estimate 38 to 43 knots. Track heading 192. CPA to our position, approximately 5 minutes, 20 seconds. The CIC watch officer was reporting it. The captain had already seen it and had already decided on the primary response. He had decided it in the 4 seconds between seeing the first contact and taking the con, because the primary response tool in the West Sea at 2:17 a.m. for this profile, small, fast, no lights from the north, was not what worked in the Strait of Hormuz or the Baltic or the Taiwan Strait. The primary tool was the Searchlight array, 2.5 million candela on a stabilized mount. At 3 nautical miles in no ambient light, it resolved a small vessel into visible detail. The fast attack approach was designed for the operational condition of darkness, for the gap between radar detection and visual confirmation, in which the approaching vessel covered distance in unverifiable intent. The Searchlight removed that condition. A vessel in 2.5 million candela at close range in the West Sea at night was a vessel whose crew knew they had been seen, identified, and recorded. That knowledge, captured, recorded, no longer concealed, was the message. At 2:21 a.m., the captain authorized the Searchlight array. CIC bridge. Activate Searchlight array on Contact Alpha. Track Alpha continuously. Do not shift to Bravo until I order. The array oriented toward Contact Alpha's bearing in approximately 7 seconds. At 1.9 nautical miles, 2.5 million candela resolved the contact from a radar return into a specific, visible object. A small vessel, low profile, dark hull, no running lights, moving at high speed directly toward the destroyer. The Searchlight camera was recording. Contact Alpha, reduce speed! From 40 to 45 knots to approximately 20 knots within 2 radar sweeps. 30 seconds of Searchlight. The speed reduction was visible on the radar display as a change in the distance between successive contact positions. CPA to Contact Alpha, 1.4 nautical miles and decreasing at reduced rate. The first friction event arrived at 2:22 a.m. in the communications suite. The ROK Corvette operating 4 nautical miles to the east had detected both contacts and had immediately activated its reporting channel to the Combined Operations Center in Seoul. Standard protocol, but the ROK reporting format required Seoul to notify the U.S. destroyer by separate channel rather than the direct tactical coordination circuit the 2 ships shared. The ROK vessel's report went to Seoul, Seoul processed it, and Seoul's notification to the destroyer arrived approximately 90 seconds after the ROK vessel had first detected the contacts. 90 seconds in which Contact Alpha had been in the Searchlight for 90 seconds and had already reduced speed. Contact Bravo was at 3.1 nautical miles and still closing at 38 to 43 knots. The communications officer managed the Seoul circuit, confirmed the destroyer's contact assessment, coordinated the reporting format with the ROK vessel on the direct circuit within approximately 60 seconds. The friction was managed. Contact Alpha was now at 1.1 nautical miles, holding its reduced speed. The Searchlight was maintaining illumination. At 2:23 a.m., the captain shifted the Searchlight. CIC bridge. Shift Searchlight to Contact Bravo. Keep FLIR on Alpha. The array reoriented from Alpha, now at 1.1 nautical miles, to Bravo at bearing 011, range 2.4 nautical miles. 4 seconds to reorient. At 2.4 nautical miles, contact Bravo, proceeding at 38 to 43 knots in complete darkness, aware that its partner had been illuminated but not yet expecting illumination itself, was placed in 2.5 million candela. Contact Bravo reduced speed within 1 radar sweep, from 40 knots to approximately 22 knots. Both contacts were now illuminated in sequence and both decelerating. The pincer approach, designed to require the bridge crew to manage one close contact at high speed while a second closed from another bearing, had been disrupted. Illuminated contacts closing at 22 knots were a different tactical situation from unlit contacts closing at 40 knots. Illumination had not stopped them. It had changed the operational conditions under which they were operating. CPA to contact Alpha, 0.9 nautical miles. Contact Bravo, 2.0 nautical miles, now at approximately 18 knots. The captain shifted the Searchlight back to contact Alpha at 2:25 a.m., when Bravo had decelerated sufficiently. Alpha was at 0.8 nautical miles, still closing slowly at approximately 18 knots, not turning away. Still approaching, but in full Searchlight illumination, at a speed the bridge crew could manage, see, assess, document, respond to. At 2:25 a.m., the second friction event arrived through the FLIR system. Contact Alpha, now at 0.8 nautical miles and in the Searchlight, was visible in the FLIR thermal image with sufficient resolution for a more detailed assessment. The FLIR operator. Bridge CIC. FLIR on Alpha at 0.8 nautical miles. I can confirm approximately 10 to 11 meters in length. 3 personnel, 3 thermal signatures consistent with crew members. I cannot confirm the presence or absence of weapons. I'm seeing what appears to be a tarpaulin or cover in the midships area. I cannot confirm what is under it. A tarpaulin. In the middle of a small, fast, unlit boat from the north at 2:25 a.m. FLIR operated in the thermal spectrum. It saw heat signatures, not physical details obscured by material. A tarpaulin at ambient temperature, covering something at ambient temperature, was invisible beyond its existence as a covered area. Whether it covered weapons, infiltration equipment, or something else was not determinable from the thermal image. The captain noted the tarpaulin report. He did not change his posture. The tarpaulin was information. His posture was already calibrated for the worst-case interpretation of a small, fast, unlit boat from the north. CPA to contact Alpha, 0.6 nautical miles. Contact Bravo, 1.8 nautical miles, now at approximately 15 knots. At 2:26 a.m., the destroyer transmitted on the International Maritime Emergency Frequency and on the Korean language tactical channel simultaneously. Unidentified vessels approaching from the north at bearing 348 and 011. You are within 2 nautical miles of a United States warship on authorized patrol in international waters of the West Sea. You are not displaying navigation lights and are not broadcasting identification. Surface to a stop position and identify yourselves in your registry. The UQC through water acoustic channel was also activated. Unidentified contacts bearing north. You are being tracked by United States naval vessel. Surface and identify. Contact Alpha did not respond. Contact Bravo did not respond. Neither broadcast AIS. Neither activated lights. But both continued at reduced speed rather than their original approach speed. At 2:27 a.m., Contact Alpha stopped. The helmsman was 22 years old. He had been holding course 270 since the watch began. He was holding course 270 now. The contact that had been at 40 to 45 knots in darkness 12 minutes ago was at 0.5 nautical miles and stopped in the Searchlight, and the crew on that vessel and the 3 thermal signatures that the FLIR had been tracking through the approach were 0.5 nautical miles from the bow, visible, recorded, and, at this specific moment, deciding something. The helmsman did not know what they were deciding. He did not need to know. His standing order was course 270. His hands were at 10 and 2. Course 270 was the instruction. He held it. 15 knots to approximately 1 knot in 2 radar sweeps. Stopped. Still in the Searchlight. 3 thermal signatures in the boat. A tarpaulin in the midships area. The vessel had stopped 0.5 nautical miles from the destroyer. CPA to contact Alpha, 0.5 nautical miles, holding. Contact Bravo, 1.6 nautical miles, also slowing to approximately 8 knots. Both contacts had stopped their approach. The captain had been watching Contact Alpha's position updates with the fixed attention of someone who had identified a moment and was waiting for it to complete. A vessel that had been at 40 to 45 knots in darkness, been illuminated, decelerated, and stopped at 0.5 nautical miles was a vessel whose crew was making a decision. He was watching them make it. At 2:28 a.m., the Seahawk received authorization to launch. With both contacts holding rather than closing, the Seahawk's role was documentation from altitude. Launch, climb to 400 feet, document the vessel's configuration, the tarpaulin, crew positions, hull details, from a top-down aerial perspective. A top-down view of a KPN profile infiltration craft at rest in the Searchlight, 0.5 nautical miles from a U.S. destroyer at 2:28 a.m., was the kind of intelligence product that informed the next assessment of KPN fast boat operational profiles. The Seahawk launched at 2:29 a.m. and reached Contact Alpha's position within 90 seconds. At 2:30 a.m., Contact Alpha activated navigation lights. Port side red, starboard side green, masthead white, all three simultaneously. A vessel that had been operating without any navigation lights since before first detection had just activated all three standard lights while stopped in the Searchlight with a Seahawk at 400 feet above it. The navigation light activation was a signal, not a formal distress signal, not a Channel 16 broadcast, a vessel turning on its lights. In the context of the preceding 13 minutes, the 40-knot unlit approach, the Searchlight, the deceleration, the stop, it was a specific communication. The vessel had decided to be visible by choice, which was different from being visible by Searchlight. Contact Bravo activated its navigation lights at 2:31 a.m., 1 minute after Alpha, also stationary, also literally. Both contacts were now stopped, lit, visible, and unidentified. Neither had responded on any radio frequency. Neither had identified itself by vessel name, registry, or flag. The tarpaulin on Alpha had not moved. At 2:33 a.m., Contact Alpha turned north. Speed increased to approximately 15 knots. Course change orienting toward the NLL. Navigation lights on. The vessel was running north, lit at moderate speed. Contact Bravo turned north at 2:34 a.m. Lights on, 15 knots, north. Both contacts were withdrawing. The Seahawk tracked both contacts northward for 7 minutes. At 2:40 a.m., both contacts crossed the NLL and continued north. Navigation lights visible on the Seahawk's camera as two small points moving through the darkness on the northern side of the line. The Seahawk held station at the NLL for 3 additional minutes, confirming the crossing. Then, the captain authorized recovery. No one on the bridge spoke for a long moment. The West Sea at 2:41 a.m. was the same West Sea it had been at 2:17 a.m., brown and shallow and dark on the northern side. A city glowed to the south, the specific humidity of the Yellow Sea Basin in late spring, sitting on the surface of the water and catching the Searchlight's residual warmth and holding it in the air for a moment before dissipating. The Searchlight had been secured. The Seahawk was on its way back. The contacts were north of the NLL and continuing to open. The ROK corvette to the east had been on the coordination circuit throughout and had the full encounter picture. Seoul had the encounter picture. 7th Fleet had the encounter picture. Everything that had happened in the West Sea in the past 24 minutes was already distributed to the people who needed to assess it. The tarpaulin on Contact Alpha was still unresolved. It would remain unresolved until the intelligence staff could review the FLIR thermal imagery and the Seahawk's top-down camera footage and make their assessment. That assessment would take time. The tarpaulin itself had crossed the NLL going north. Whatever it covered was back on the north side of the line. The encounter record documented its existence and its dimensions and its thermal signature. The intelligence assessment would tell the next crew that entered this patrol box what that record meant. The helmsman had held course 270 throughout the entire encounter. Through the Searchlight activation, through both contacts decelerating, through Contact Alpha stopping 0.5 nautical miles off the bow, through the Seahawk launch, through the navigation light activation, through the withdrawal. His hands were at 10 and 2. The course had not moved. The NLL to the north was where it had always been. The darkness beyond it was what it had always been. His hands were at 10 and 2. The officer of the deck looked at the radar picture. The two contacts were at 3.4 and 3.7 nautical miles north of the NLL and continuing to open. The West Sea was returning to its baseline picture. The ROK corvette to the east at 8 knots. The fishing returns in the south, the lights of Incheon at the southern horizon. The northern horizon was dark again. He straightened his collar. The captain walked to the chart table. The encounter report would go to 7th Fleet, to the Combined Operations Center in Seoul, to the ROK Navy's Coordination Authority, and to the Pacific Fleet Intelligence Staff for assessment of the tarpaulin and the vessel profile. The complete FLIR thermal imagery, the Searchlight camera footage, the Seahawk's top-down documentation, and the radar track histories would comprise the intelligence package. A secure Searchlight array. Seahawk recovery on OOD's call. Full encounter report per protocol. Include the complete track history from first detection, the FLIR tarpaulin report, and the navigation light activation sequence. He looked at the chart. Resume Patrol Station Alpha. Notify Seoul. Situation resolved. Both contacts withdrawn north of the NLL. He looked at the northern horizon. Good watch. The record assembled here speaks in the language the ocean keeps. 2 unidentified KPN profile surface contacts, designated Alpha and Bravo, emerged from north of the northern limit line at 2:17 a.m. and approached a U.S. destroyer on joint patrol in the West Sea in a coordinated pincer geometry. Contact Alpha, bearing 348, speed 40 to 45 knots, no navigation lights, no AIS. Contact Bravo, bearing 011, speed 38 to 43 knots, no navigation lights, no AIS. FLIR assessment of Contact Alpha, approximately 10 to 11 meters in length, 3 crew visible as thermal signatures, tarpaulin covering present in midships area, contents unconfirmed. Searchlight array activated on Contact Alpha. Yes, at 2:21 a.m. Contact Alpha speed reduction from 40 to 45 knots within 30 seconds of Searchlight activation. Searchlight shifted to Contact Bravo. Yes, at 2:23 a.m. Contact Bravo speed reduction within 1 radar sweep of Searchlight shift. Contact Alpha stopped at 0.5 nautical miles. Yes, at 2:27 a.m. Contact Bravo held at 1.6 nautical miles. Seahawk launched for documentation. Yes, at 2:29 a.m. Navigation lights activated by Contact Alpha. Yes, at 2:30 a.m. Contact Bravo. Yes, at 2:31 a.m. Both contacts initiated northward withdrawal. Alpha at 2:33 a.m. Bravo at 2:34 a.m. Both contacts confirmed crossing NLL northbound, 2:40 a.m. Broadcasts transmitted UQC and international emergency frequency. Responses received 0. Weapons authorized? No. Weapons released? No. Course alterations by U.S. destroyer? 0. ROK Navy coordination maintained throughout? Yes. Combined Operations Center Seoul notified? Yes. The West Sea at 2:17 a.m. held darkness on its northern side, and 2 contacts using that darkness as their operational condition. The Searchlight took the darkness away. 2.5 million candela does not resolve every question. It resolves the condition that the approach required. The contacts turned north with their lights on. The lights on were an admission. The lights on meant they had already been seen.